everyone, and welcome to the Big Brother Canada 10 Roundtable podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about everything from the feeds, and we rate the players from 1 to 10 based on how well we think they're doing in the game. With me this week to rate the players and talk through it all is Aman. How you doing, Aman?
I'm great. I've been better in terms of like the crap that's happening with the people in my draft. But other than that, I'm fine, I guess. Happy to be back.
Happy to be back. Also with us this week is Pooya. How you doing, Pooya?
I'm doing fine. I'm also happy to be back. My draft's looking okay. I'm not gonna, I will lose some sleep given these exit interviews that are coming out, but I'm fine for now. We're okay. We're living.
There we go. Melissa is unfortunately we came up with a system here. We put some gummy bears in a little bucket, and Melissa drew the red gummy bear, so she had to sit this podcast out.
Yeah, see, I drew the blue one, so my life is fine.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know there were blue ones. Mm-hmm. So look at that.
Taking in this foolery. I refuse.
Melissa is traveling to the land of the squid this week, so she will not be joining us.
Yeah.
It sounds like she might not come back either. I hear that.
She might come back with a bundle of cash. Who knows? Who knows? But we are here. We're going to talk through what's been happening here on the Big Brother Canada 10 live feeds. There's a lot. There's a lot to get to. There's a lot to talk through here. It felt like maybe it wouldn't be a lot. It felt like, is this season starting to turn here as we're getting yet another repeat HOH and another, repeat set of nominations, basically. But we should not have doubted, at least not yet. Maybe there's another. You know what? I shouldn't say we should not have doubted because I'm already doubting again. And I'm not prepared to be wrong again. But that first time we should not have doubted because Marty came in with some wild ideas regarding some gummy bears. So let's talk about it. Aman, what have you thought so far on the week in Big Brother Canada?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it felt very much part of the course. Typical Marty HOH. And I guess all the more typical once this crazy plan has now occurred. So yeah, I'm sort of just like in shock. I don't know. I'm not really enjoying it as much as everybody else is, not to be the curmudgeon here, because it's just sometimes it's great to watch bad decisions being made on Big Brother. This time I'm like, why? Just why? It feels like it's sort of like cheapening the overall value of everybody's gameplay right now, because why? But I'm glad that it's something else and that it's not boring, of course, but I'm also just hella confused. I'm sort of like speechless. I haven't really. That's a good question, Taran. I don't really know how I feel about this week. I'm so confused.
Well, Pooya, what have your thoughts been?
Oh, it's glorious. I love it. I mean, here's the thing, right? We typically, when we're covering the show, we focus a lot on analyzing the game moves, talking the strategy. That's kind of what brings us here together. The social game comes in. We enjoy that bit too. But the mess. When the mess delivers at a good rate, it is irreplaceable. No strategy in the world can replace this. When I woke up yesterday, and I had messages in my inbox saying, yeah, so Marty made them pick gummies. Gino picked the red gummy. Gino's going up. I genuinely thought my friend was joking. I genuinely thought that this was a random, like, wishful thinking message they put in the chat. Nope, it actually happened. And you almost have to watch it to believe it. Never thought this was going to happen. Marty got frauded by a gummy. The fraud detector got scammed by a gummy. And also, Gino, the dummy, said, give me the gummy. Gino was clear. Gino said, I'll take a shot. Why not? You can't write this stuff. You really cannot write this stuff. It is nuts. I can't believe this is where we're at right now.
Why? Why would you do this? Like, you're fine. You don't need to go up on the block. This guy is like laying his hands, and I guess now his gummy bears, at the altar of Gino, and you put yourself in the line of fire for what? To be a nice guy? There is no nice guy in Big Brother. You either play or you go home, and now you played yourself to go home. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, on one hand, it's like, okay, well, there's like 4 or 5 of us drawing, so the likelihood. No, that's still such a really big possibility, from you being completely 0% chance of going up to even opening up a percentage at all. It's just like, why? Why? And then the questions that Arissa is gonna have for this guy when he walks out. Arissa, please do your worst. Please do your worst. Because, and I mean, do your worst into shaming him. Do your best in terms of interviewing, of course. But I'm just like, I just need for him to understand the gravity of this dumb ass decision. And of course, there are a lot of people that are like, Gino probably wasn't that long for this game anyway. I mean, he has a bunch of people that were going to come after him in the triple. So he probably would not have survived Thursday. But the fact that you gave yourself absolutely no shot at all is just, and you're so deluded into thinking that people are going, Gino, you are Gino. You have won 2 HOHs already. You've sent home big names. And all you've done is attach yourself to a showman. You think that people are going to vote to keep you? Where is the logic? Where is it? Where? That's how I feel about this week, Tara. That's where I'm at. And furthermore, you know what? I'll save that part to the next till we move on. Because
Aman, remind me who you have in the draft.
I have Gino in the draft, but like I said, I didn't expect him to make it through Thursday. I really didn't. I thought that the entire house was going to come together and get either. I saw a combination of Josh, Marty, Gino, Josh, Gino, maybe Jace, Josh, Gino, maybe Kevin gets screwed over somehow. I didn't see him making it out of this, but I didn't expect him to go out like this. And the way that the fact that it could even potentially mess up the last person that I would have in my draft is what furthermore makes it even more upsetting, because it's like, this is even worse.
Who's your other person?
Summer. And we can debate this, because I feel like there's still some wiggle room left for my girl. I really do. But I'm also like, this is so idiotic. I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
Careful, Pooya. You're playing with fate, playing with fire there.
I'm kind of loving this. My good friend Anthony and I were talking the other day, and Anthony was like, he kind of put this stuff out there, and I really, do think that it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it was a really good time when Anthony came on the podcast. It was a shame Aman didn't want to show up.
Dude, when we hung out afterwards, that was great. That call afterwards was banging. Are you frozen?
You know what? That was a very, very low blow. And I'm going to pretend that I didn't hear that.
Okay.
And we just going to move on. You know what? I'm going to have some words for the both of you after the show is over. I'm not going to do this. See, this is what they want. This is what they want. And you're not going to get it out of me. I am not going to do this on live RHAP, okay?
That was personal.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. It was personal.
All right. Well, we've got a week to talk about here. Of course, Marty won the HOH. We saw that in the episode last night. What a debacle the rule change was. But Marty wins the HOH over Betty. It's time for his revenge on Betty. And him and Betty, they don't have a great relationship. He's gonna let Betty go to Wendy's, but it's just Wendy's. He's gonna put Betty on the block next to Josh. Summer gets safety from Canada. We didn't expect that to happen. This all feels like ancient history at this point, because none of it's particularly relevant now. we then get to the veto competition. Betty wins the veto competition.
This is business B. Let's get it.
She got it. And then the big news of the week is that Marty, and we haven't seen this in the episode yet. We never saw it in the feeds, so hopefully it's in the Wednesday episode. Marty caught Kevin having some kind of conversation with Josh that he found to be very sketchy, and he became concerned that Kevin was secretly working with Josh, and so Kevin was his intended choice for a replacement nominee for days until the feeds went down for a party after a wild task given to Kevin by Marsha the Moose. When they came back up in the morning, Marty had changed his mind after a conversation with Kevin and decided instead he was going to give out some gummy bears to each of Kevin, Helena, and Jace, with Gino having the option to opt in to the gummy bear choice. Gino decided, yes, I will opt in to the choice. I will put my gummy bear. You have, like, Marty was like, Kevin, we need your sword. Helena, we need your axe. Jace, we need your bow. And Gino, if you want. And Gino's like, you have my gummy bear. Okay. All right. They then drew the gummy bears out of the bucket. There were 4 of them. The person that drew the red gummy bear was going to end up on the block. And of course, our lover boy himself, Gino, drew the red gummy bear, the same color that he is on the wheel of veto. It was destined.
Kyle's color. Kyle said, bring it home. And he's going to bring it home.
He's going to bring home the red gummy bear one way or another. And so Gino ended up on the block as the replacement for Betty when Betty used the veto on herself. And Kevin swore on his marriage that he would not flip. Kevin, though, does intend to flip with Helena, which would send Gino out the door. Now, little bit of a pothole in the road of this story is that Kevin and Helena have been talking today about, like, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should just keep Gino. Should we just keep? But maybe let's think about it. And it seems like we're being tested right now. We're being tried. We've got to have faith. But sometimes it's hard when bad things happen in the house, like they talk about maybe not going through with the gummy bear plan. And it's fine. Like I will maintain my faith, but if they don't go through the gummy bear plan, then I don't know.
There's still a couple of days. There's still a couple of days for some conversation here. That was pretty interesting today, though, watching them kind of waffle a little bit, have some maybe cold feet about it. But
we don't get to call it waffles. Waffles are too good for what they're doing. What
would you call them? And do not say pancakes because they're also good.
Pancakes were also too good. I would call it gummy bearing.
Okay. I'm not going to lie. I've been having some of these. They're not as good as I remember them.
They're not good. Gummy bears aren't good.
Yeah. They're too chewy.
Yeah.
With not enough flavor delivered in the chew. I don't know. That's just me. Aman, you've been very quiet. What are you pondering over there?
Look, I'm just like, it is very, I guess it's just like very hard for me to swallow stupidity today. Honestly, I mean, if Kevin and Helena, I mean, I think that it's good that you are pondering, pros and cons of letting Josh go, letting Gino go. But honestly, if you follow up one dumb move with another dumb move of your own and not getting rid of Gino, then it's like, what are any of y'all doing at this point? You have this whole thing with Josh. Josh is loyal to, more so to Kevin to a fault. So there really is no reason for you to throw that away for Gino. Like, so yeah, I fully expect Gino to be the one to leave, because it's just, I mean, when you have a big juicy target on the block like that, there's no, I mean, come on, you take the shot. You take the shot, especially when that big juicy target is dumb enough to put themselves up there. So
yeah, so part of the reason why they're backtracking a little bit is that Betty approached Jace this morning with the idea that they should work together. And that Betty and Summer agreed they don't trust Helena. They want Helena gone. They think that Helena is working too tightly with Marty. And so Betty decided, I'm going to approach Jace and be like, hey, Jace, I want to work with you. And that perhaps in a triple eviction, they would put up Marty, Helena, and Kevin, which would be very bad for them, especially after just having voted Gino out, right? So Jace brought this back to Kevin and Helena, who were like, "What the hell? We're about to keep Josh. Why is Betty going to Jace? If Betty goes to Jace and Betty and Summer and Jace team up, then we're screwed. That's not good. But at the same time, if we stick with Gino, we're just playing for second place. It kind of feels like we're drawing dead. And I think that's sort of where they're coming from here, feeling like they're kind of screwed either way. And Kevin says to Helena essentially, like, look, if we keep Gino, I think we're getting second place. But if that matters to you, like, I'm willing to go there. Like, if that 20K is something that would change your life, and she said it is, then like, I'm willing to go down that road for you. But Helena's been like, no, I'd rather take the risk and go for the win. But then she had a conversation with Marty, and he was like, I've got you to final two. And she was like, am I really turning my back on this guy to the cameras? So it's kind of been a little wishy-washy here. And
turn your back on him, girl. Turn your back on him.
Yes!
I mean, you've been doing it all season anyway. Like, it's Marty. It's Marty. Marty has been turning his back on. Gino was on the block. What are you concerned about? Turn your back on him, okay? Do it.
Yeah, and there's so much ammo they have. I don't understand why they're not just going to. And they even talked about it. Kevin mentioned it to Josh, so part of me feels like Kevin must have an idea of where he should go here. And the way that Kevin is framing it, like, if we want second place, we can keep Gino. I will do that for you, Helena. Definitely makes it seem like he still has his priorities straight. Like, he knows what the move is. But even just putting that in Helena's hands at all seems very weird to me, especially when he's presenting it as potentially a better move for her to take out Josh. But he did talk to Josh and basically, like, they talked about potentially having Josh propose a final five between Josh, Summer, Betty, Kevin, Helena, which makes a lot of sense. And I don't know why they're not just going along that path. Jace spilling all of Betty's info from just this morning could easily turn Betty against Jace more, not to mention the fact that they know that she had the power and didn't use it last week. There's so much information, not to mention the fact that they plan to vote to keep Josh and evict Gino. They can leverage that to get in tighter with Summer and Betty, especially with Josh backing them up. It makes so much sense, and I don't know why they're hesitating so much. I have to imagine that a large part of this is just like, we talk a big game, but when it comes down to actually betraying people that trust us, we're starting to get a little queasy.
I think she also, I mean, at least for Helena, I think she's probably also grappling with the fact that she hasn't really garnered too many great relationships. So the one that you think that you have a lot of value in, you don't want to lose that potential jury vote, or if he ends up in jury, or you don't want to lose that potential person that could take you all the way to the end. So I feel like Helena has sort of like, this isn't the first time where we've seen her sort of like grapple with, oh my God, do I do this? Do I turn on this person? And it's because I feel like she spent so much time on the outskirts, knowingly on the outskirts, and she's been using that as a means to get to vote people out and to justify voting them out. But at the end of the day, if you spend all that time out on the outskirts, not really getting in good with only just a few people, then when it comes down to like the game and like what people think about your game, you don't have anything to show for it. And then you're going to have to do all of this explaining about why you turn on these people. And at that point, I feel like it's a little bit too late. So I feel like there's just like a lot of like pressure for her to make the right decisions now because she's so worried about who she can potentially have for votes and who could potentially take her to the end because she hasn't been doing that well of making those connections up until now. So, I mean, them's the breaks when you sort of like are an understated character in the game. It can work to a certain degree, but in the end game, that's when it really counts. And I feel like she doesn't really have much to show for it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if they decided to not go through with this move, I think that's not only is it it's like a bad move. I think it's bad for both of them. There's some discussion that it's better for Helena to not go through with this because of the precarious position that she may find herself in the triple. But I think that she finds herself in a precarious position in the triple regardless. It's not as though voting Josh out means that all of a sudden Betty and Summer are going to be like, okay, I guess I don't want to put Helena on the block. Like they already assume that Helena is in tight with Marty and they'd rather work with Jace and Gino than Marty and Helena. So in voting against their will is not exactly going to make them feel super nice about that. Now it's maybe a better position in the sense that, you know, maybe it's like Gino, Marty, and Helena on the block or something along those lines. But not a guarantee, especially again, if they don't have Kevin and they feel like Kevin is also with Marty. That's their concern, is that there's a trio happening there, which is more threatening than a duo in Jace and Gino. So it doesn't make sense to me anyway around. The triple is always going to be dangerous, and I completely understand the fear of it because it really is just a Russian roulette at some point. But you have to roll the dice sometimes, and I think that either way is rolling the dice. One side just weighs better, feels better, looks better, and is better. And it just hurts a little more because of the betrayal aspect. But you'd have to betray Josh too, and I don't think they've like come to that sort of understanding either. Like they're thinking about how difficult it is to betray Marty and Gino and Jace, but they haven't like thought about the reality of actually betraying Josh either. And I'm sure that they would also feel bad about that. So it's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I feel like if you also account for, and I know this house is not good with their math, but if they account for the mathematics of it all, you get rid of someone who has now won 2 HOHs. The person who has won 3 HOHs can't play in the next one. That opens up some opportunity for you to win, for your ally to win.
Exactly.
You have way better shot at it now than if you keep the person whom you're not even that like very tight with, who could win it, and then you don't. Again, another opportunity for you not to put something on the resume.
Yes, I completely agree. And I think that players, especially nowadays, they get way too fancy in the end game, thinking like, I'll keep around this comp threat because they're going to do this for me here and this for me here. And it doesn't really work that way. Now, like last week, Kevin and Helena decided to keep Marty. It was a risk, and it very nearly blew up in their faces. But it managed to just barely pay off here. They cannot keep both Marty and Gino in the game. There's a chance that these endgame competitions will be different and that they will have an equal chance of winning those endgame competitions. That would be wonderful. But never in the history of the show, in the last decade of the show, has that been the case. In the last decade of the show, the Xaviers win, the Ties win, the Jacksons win, the Casey, like the physical players, the players that have historically won physical competitions and are also good mentally, tend to dominate the end game competitions. They get more winnable, not less winnable. And so keeping them in the game is just a pure disaster move, in my opinion. Sure, Josh is also capable of winning, but he's also pretty loyal to you, and has not proven himself to be nearly as capable as either Gino or Marty at this point. So it's to me, it's a no-brainer for both of them.
I feel like with the double eviction, triple eviction, it's always just best to just do things first and then ask for permission later. Like, you take out whoever you can take out that's best for your game, even if you are loyal to them, even if they've been riding with you the entire time. And then when the dust settles, that's when you're like, okay, I'm so sorry, I had to. That's when you figure it out at the end. Like all of this like maneuvering around people's feelings or whatever. Yes, it's great to have a little bit of that, but I mean, come on, it's just the game. And especially, I mean, for Kevin as well, like you've been doing this corralling of Marty, and Marty's ass has been like eyeing you when in his crosshairs too. Like I told you, your ass is not immune to Marty's craziness. Like, so you were this
You
close.
nearly went up. You nearly went up.
Yeah. You nearly went up. Like, so I don't understand why it's all like, oh, Marty, like he's gonna be screaming, get off his lawn till the cows come home. You might as well just take the shot and just do it.
Here's the fact of the matter too. Marty gets blindsided, right? Oh, my beloved Gino, I simp for thee. You are gone now. Who is he going to turn to? He's not going to be mad. Like, he might be mad for a second. The truth is, he can't turn to anyone else. They are all he has left anyway. So if he wants to play with anybody, it's them. He still can't even win he has to win the veto to survive, regardless of what happens that night. So I think there's a pretty decent chance that even if he, knock on wood, he vetoes and then HOHs and is still there, I don't think he's going to be like, looking at them directly. And if you get to 5, you get to 6, what happened this week could happen where, the veto got used. Now we have no choice but to put one of us up anyway. You're at the end game at this point. Ending up on the block becomes more and more commonplace. Just deal with the best path you can.
Yeah, and something else worth talking about is that I talked to Moose today, and Moose had some interesting answers for me. Now, I don't remember exactly, but I'm interviewing him on a Tuesday. So in my eyes, there's a decent chance that he has already gone to the jury. It's possible that he's been just sort of sequestered until I don't remember if they do that. I feel like I learned that last season and I forgot again. But there's a chance he's already spoken to Herman at this point, which makes his information all the more valuable, if he has. But Moose told me that he felt like Kevin was very underrated in the game, that Kevin was an amazing player and doing a lot of good work, very influential, used his win very effectively. His main criteria was not necessarily people who had won a lot, but people who were at least trying to win and trying to play the game. And so for Moose, his top choices were essentially Marty and Gino. But after that, he's looking at Kevin. And he's looking at Kevin over, even probably somebody like Betty. Now, Betty winning this veto will probably help her in both Herman and Moose's eyes. But certainly right now over Helena, who he still feels like he needs to understand what her game is. But once he does, he feels like he could respect it. And I do think she would be able to explain it well to him. But I think Kevin would probably be able to explain it better, especially since he starts from a higher position. Then Summer, he said Summer had a great social game. But what he told me is that like everybody has a great social game.
Right.
What I want to see is people that are trying to play the game. And he really did not respect the fact that she went and got that have pass during the HOH competition that she could have won had she not gone and done that. This notion that she's throwing competitions has sort of followed her around for a while. So doesn't seem to be very likely a Summer vote right now unless she starts kicking it into gear and winning comps. And then Josh was last on his list as somebody that hasn't won any competitions and that he feels kind of burned by. He feels like Josh turned his back on both him and Herman for what? Like, what is he doing? Is he making decisions in the game? I feel like there could be a perception of Josh, which could be the right one, where Kevin has kind of led him around, which means Josh may not be the auto win versus Kevin that Kevin fears, which only makes the choice even easier. Because if Kevin can beat Josh in the end, if Helena could even potentially beat Josh in the end, then they can take Josh much further than I think they imagine that they could. And it would be absolutely wild of them to decide to keep Gino over Josh this week. So interesting info from Moose for sure.
I did check the background of the 2 exit interviews, Taran. They're in the exact same place. Now, if that's jury or sequester, that I can't tell you, sadly. So,
yeah, I thought so, because I thought that it looked like a similar background, but I'm not sure. I don't know, like, it's certainly possible that they would decide to keep Moose, but I don't know, like, why they wouldn't. Maybe because they need to film and they were maybe like the introduction segment needs to be specific, but it's possible that Moose hasn't talked to Herman and that things could change. And also, you really have to take these jury questions with a grain of salt because they are rarely accurate when it comes down to it. But I think the point though is that like you never really know when it comes to these jury things, unless there is somebody that's just dominating in competitions, because that is like the clear indicator that somebody will be voting for that person in jury. If they win a lot of competitions, even if there's somebody like Marty, people are like, got to give it to Marty. He won so many competitions. So you can bank on that in terms of jury stuff most of the time. But if you're like, hey, this person is not winning a lot of comps, but they're super likable, so I don't know if I can bring them, like, not always. It's not as reliable there. A tab in the chat says Moose said he had talked to Herman in his ET Canada interview. So that would be huge because we know that Herman was very anti-Kevin in his interview with me. So if Moose has talked to Herman and is like, hey, Kevin is underrated, doesn't mean he's convinced Herman, but it does mean that Herman has not been able to influence Moose into being anti-Kevin. And Moose being a pro-Kevin voice on the jury is pretty big because Moose didn't really have the relationship with Kevin to indicate that he would be pushing for Kevin based on the relationship or the strategic relationship with Kevin to understand Kevin's actual game. So if Moose is on board, then that's a very good sign overall, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting how Moose sees Josh's game, because I mean, if on one hand, if you are valuing competitions, are you what are you valuing? Are you valuing the fact that people are winning, or are you valuing the fact that people are trying to win? Because we know that Josh is coming second in a lot of these competitions, so it's not like Josh is just completely just like, you know, putting his hands up and just like allowing the game to pass him by. That being said, there is a lot of heavy reliance, especially now that he's put all of his eggs into this Kevin basket. So if that has been a well-documented thing, even before Moose even left the house, it's going to be hard. He will need to at least win something, I think, and then steer the game in the way that he sees fit that doesn't have anything to do with Kevin in order to sort of break that narrative. But I don't think that it's as simple. I don't think it's as cut and dry as saying like, oh, you haven't won any competition, so therefore your game is in the crapper. I do think that this is an interesting example of how every cast is going to be different in terms of like how they overall value what portions of the game. It seems like this cast is really sort of like gung-ho about competitions, whereas last time it wasn't necessarily the case. So that's just interesting to me. I mean, like maybe it is sort of like what Moose is saying, in that a lot of people are generally likable. I mean, we as an audience have responded pretty well to most of these people. So when everybody's likable and everybody is sort of hunky-dory, even though I still don't think that some people's social games are to be commended. I think some people are just crappy social people. If everybody is generally likable, then I guess the next big thing would be to think about who has steered the game the most. And yeah, if you ain't got it, then you ain't got it. So we'll see what Josh does.
Yeah, like Taran said, obviously taking a big grain of salt with these interviews. It was interesting listening to Moose. First of all, his enthusiasm was phenomenal. I love the energy he gave you with Kevin. All right, Kevin is great. Every single opening was high energy. Love that. But it's very interesting because obviously what we know about Moose is he has watched one season and he watched that season twice. It was season 6. Who was the person he knew going in? Erica. What was Erica? A comp beast. So I feel like you put all that together, and then him saying that everyone is good at social is a very, very, very bad take, in my opinion, because like there's levels to this, Moose. Come on now. But because he's discounting that, he's leveling it out, it does become a comp-centric decision for him, because whoever wins them has agency to put people on the block and make the decision. So now what I'm curious is Moose going to be equating strategy with competition wins? Because we know those are vastly different things. But for example, I do think if Josh wins the triple eviction, HOH, there's a pretty big comp win for his resume. If that is the win that gets Marty out of the game, that is, again, another big notch. So I don't think Josh is dead in the water by any means. I think that there's still many paths for him to take, but I also think it's going to depend on what everyone else coming into the jury is going to say, because I do think Moose is keen to hear.
Rid of Kevin.
So we'll see.
Get rid of Kevin. But he won't do it.
Yes. Yeah. I did ask the audience who they thought Marty should have targeted this week, and 40% of them said Kevin was the best target for Marty, with 30% saying Josh and 15% saying Gino.
Mm-hmm.
I don't at this point, I feel like, it is tough. I think that for Marty, like, I don't know. I don't think Gino is the right target for Marty at this point, even though Gino could just turn around and get rid of Marty next week, which certainly could have happened if not for this gummy bear thing. You still want that like additional target. I think if you're Marty, that equation of like comp threatness is a little bit different for somebody who is the biggest comp threat. That said, I feel like Kevin is just so dangerous for Marty's game. And so is Josh. So I think Kevin or Josh, either one of them would have been great. I think Kevin and Josh on the block was the right call for Marty. And the fact that he was almost there and then completely fumbled is pure Marty to me.
I mean, at this point, it is what it is with Marty. Like he has to win or he goes home. I think even if Josh were the one to go first on Thursday night, it's still the whole house is like, screw Marty. So like his back is up against the wall. It's either do or die. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see if he is able to win the veto on Thursday. That really can shake things up in terms of who else can go. I will be interested to see like a jilted Marty, because he's going to blame, of course, everybody else that Gino is going to go home, even he's the person that put him on the block because of a high fructose corn syrup treat. Okay. So I just want to know, like, okay, so what are you going to do now? Because as Pooya said, who you going to call? Okay. Not even the Ghostbusters are coming for you. Like, it's like you're alone. So are you going to then try to be like, Kevin and Helena, like, save me, like, we need to get rid of Betty in Summer? Or do you try to kick up the Samarty thing again with Summer and be like, oh, we got to get rid of Kevin and Helena, those two, they completely hoodwinked me? Like, I'm going to be very interested to see, especially because he'll have to win first in order for that to even be a thing. So interesting to see what happens, but I think more likely than not, it's time for him to go.
Yes. Well, I did also ask the audience who they would prefer to see evicted this week. And 92% said Gino, which might be the highest ever in a who would you prefer to see evicted. I mean, the thing is, like, I'm with them. Like, you need to fulfill this gummy bear destiny. It is so good. It's one of the best things that has happened to Big Brother in years, like in terms of just like messy strategic nonsense, that like not only did he go up because of a gummy bear that he volunteered to put in, but now he's about to be blindsided by his allies on the way out the door. Like, this is fantastic. Don't screw this up, Kevin.
Yeah, that's probably the more like crazy thing about this is the blind side of it all. It's like you thinking that you have the votes to even put yourself in the running for this is one thing, but the fact that you are about to, I don't understand how you feel like you're, it just
They're also talking about ruining the blind side. They're talking about giving Jace a heads up the morning of, which I'm just like, stop it.
Taran, when Derek F did this, he was dead to you. Is Kevin going to be dead to you if he does this? I need to hear it right now.
If he ruins, the thing is that as long as he goes through with the vote, because he's like that's like the whole weight of this whole thing is on him. As long as he votes Gino out, he won't be dead to me, but he will definitely be on thin ice if he allows this to be ruined in terms of the blind side. But allowing it, like still having it happen is fine. If he does not vote Gino out, he's dead.
I think it'll happen.
You are
I mean,
dead to me.
Dead. I mean, you might as well blindside Jace as well. I mean, like I said, it's a triple eviction. Everybody is going to be.
It's a mad scramble.
It doesn't matter. Like there's gonna be some element of blindside for everybody because no one knows what's going to happen once Gino leaves because it is what it is. So, I mean, you being like, oh, by the way, Gino's gonna go home isn't really gonna do much for her. Like, so just let it happen. Let it happen.
Yeah. Even just the gummy bearing back and forth here. He has turned what should have been a roundtable of celebration for Kevin and Helena into a they'd better not screw this up roundtable for Kevin and Helena. Even if they now go through with it, they've already ruined the roundtable of celebration. So I hope you're happy.
Yeah, Kevin. I know you're watching this because I know you're going to come look at this. We're not happy with you right now. We're not mad at you, but we're not happy with you either.
I also asked the audience, who would you like to win HOH in the triple? 35% said Kevin, followed by 25% saying Betty, and then 18% said Helena. Top 3 picks on the board, HOH in the triple. I also asked, who do you think will be evicted in the triple eviction? 92% of the audience think that Marty is a goner in the triple eviction. Second place, 60% think Jace will be leaving as well. Third person, because I had to include him and I couldn't limit the responses without making a required question, Gino, which I assume they mean either before or during. So I get it. But those are the 2 top picks by far, Marty and Jace. Summer is up there with 16%. Then Josh with 12, Helena, Betty, and Kevin all below 10% odds of leaving. I think that's probably a little too low for Helena, Betty, and Kevin. I think that everyone has more than a 10% chance to leave.
Yeah, it really just depends on who wins.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
It's a vote to save. It's so, like, depending on what 3 are there, it really does change. Like, someone who's super safe could still stay on the block. Someone else use the veto. A third person goes up, and suddenly now they're in danger. Like, it really could change at the drop of a hat. So my question ultimately becomes, and we don't necessarily need to go down this rabbit hole right now, who would have to win for Jace and Jason Marty not to be on the block?
Jace.
Just Jace, right? Do I have that right?
Well, currently Betty and Summer also intend to leave Jace off the block, or at least are considering that option. But again, I feel like there's a couple of days to talk to them and be like, hey, we're all on the same page to keep Josh and go against Jace and Marty. Look, Helena doesn't have a final 2 with Marty. She's about to screw the guy over. Whereas, Jace is voting with Marty and Gino, and they will be together going in because they will be on the outs. Like, there's a very pretty picture to paint there. They haven't even started doing it yet, but I have to imagine that they will. And once they will, I would imagine that only Jace would prevent Jace from going up on the block. But right now, it is possible that Betty and Summer do something like Marty, Helena, and Kevin. They did also say the day before, though, that they would not nominate Kevin if he voted to keep Josh. They haven't confirmed with Kevin that he's keeping Josh yet, so that conversation alone could be enough to sway them back into the other direction, but we will see. Yeah. It's a tricky spot, right? So, I mean, if we assume that they are going to do what they, would have been doing anyway, right? And it's, let's say Summer and Betty both do Marty, Jace, Helena. That Josh would also do Marty, Jace, Helena, or Summer, or I don't think he would do Betty, but maybe he might do Summer. So let's say Josh does Summer. Then we say that Kevin and Helena both do, say, Marty, Jace, Betty, or Summer. They've gone back and forth. And it really matters because they could end up gone. Most people then doing that. Jace, who knows, once she's blindsided, maybe it's Kevin, Helena, Marty. Maybe it's Josh, Betty, Kevin. Like, it could be anything, so I'm not going to bother with that. But if they all nominate Marty wins the veto. That's big news, because Betty and Summer would now have to nominate a third person, probably Kevin, next to Jace and Helena, at which point one of them leaves. You'd hope, or Kevin would hope that it would be not him, with Josh saving Kevin. But then it would be tricky. Marty would have a save. He'd probably save Helena. And then it would all come down to Summer or Betty, whichever of the other one is not on the block. And if they've made that deal with Jace, who knows? Maybe that's a 3-way tie. I don't know. Then if Josh is the HOH, Marty wins the veto. It could get very interesting as well, because he would then have Jace and maybe Summer on the block. Now has to put up perhaps Betty or Helena. There's all kinds of weird ways this could play out. And basically, there's a path, and not a super unlikely path, for every single person to be evicted on Thursday.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's sort of like, I agree with the audience percentages in that, like we said, unless Marty is going to win anything on the triple, he's most likely to go. I think he's followed by Jace. Unless she wins, she's most likely to go. It just all comes down on who that third person will be. And I feel like, assuming that Marty and Jace don't win anything and there's a third person left, that's probably just it. That's what I'm just seeing in my mind. Now, if they do win, then, you know, like you said, if it's Summer or Betty on the block, or that are HOH, it's probably Kevin that goes. But if it's Kevin that's up, then I'm gonna hedge a bet to say that it's probably Summer that goes. That's what I think. So Marty, Summer, Jace for me. That's what I can see happening. Any of those, or two of those three, are definitely out for sure.
It's going to be a very tricky week for the stock watch if you decide to invest.
Risky.
It's a good thing I don't be doing that no more, because well, to be honest, I never did. So
all right. So we have some ratings for the week as well. The episodes were given a 7.0 rating, up from last week's 6.6. Not bad. Episodes have been a little bit better. Hopefully they get real good
they're
tomorrow
about
night.
to. They have to.
I would hope so. The feeds, a 7.4, up from the 5.2 last week. Definitely an improvement in terms of seeing more, including getting to see the task, as well as the gummy bear nonsense. Definitely some stuff there. The season as a whole, an 8.1, up from the 7.9 last week. And just shy of the 8.2 from 2 weeks ago. We are still in the 8 range for the season, which is great. Very, very high stuff that we don't often see. Competitions were given a 6.1, up from the 5.6. I'm still not that high on the competitions myself. I did not like the endurance competition here. I did not like the choice to change the rules to something very different.
Yeah.
5 hours in.
I loved it until they did that. I was like, this is great. There's like a different group of people up here. This is lovely. Oh, just arm strength. All right, bye. All right, gone, done. 5 minutes over. So it robbed it from me. It was looking good initially, to be fair.
Yeah. And then finally, the Canada Saves twist was given a 5.2 out of 10, which I thought was very appropriate. I mean, I feel like obviously it worked out that it went to Summer, and it definitely helped achieve the result of this week, including the gummy bears. But the thing is that, like, in my opinion, it was much more likely to screw things up and make things worse. And we got very lucky that things happened to fall into place in just the right way where it worked out for us. And so I was not a fan overall. It is up from the 3.2 that they gave it when they saved Marty. So, you know, they've got that going for them. All right. So one more thing before we get to the ratings. We have to rank the players from the audience's favorite to their least favorite. Can we get some top, let's say top 2 action from both of you? Who's in the top 2?
Kevin.
Yeah,
Betty. Kevin, Betty.
Moving up there. I'm stuck between Kevin, Summer, and Betty. I'm going to say Betty for sure, because I feel like she's consistently sort of just been like...
Ooh. I say Kevin for sure. Yeah.
I would just say Summer and Betty just so that I have a different answer than Pooya.
Well, Kevin is number one with a bullet, followed by Josh, number 2.
Oh, okay.
Very close, though. Literally 100th of a point. Josh is 5.66.
I was getting ready
Betty
to say
is 5.65.
Wow.
So
I was
very
gonna
close.
say, why?
There's one Betty fan out there that did not fill out the survey this
Got caught
week that could have
slacking.
pushed it over the edge to put Betty in second place. So if you are that Betty fan, shame on you.
Maybe
Betty
people just
there in
love this
third
little
place.
bromance that Josh and Kevin got going on.
I mean, watching Josh bawl his eyes out over Kevin quitting the game was pretty special.
Exactly.
Bottom 2. Who's the bottom 2?
Marty.
Marty and Jace. Maybe Marty. No, I think people still like Gino.
It's got to be Jace or Gino for the second one, right? I think.
I think so, but it's probably Jace because I think Gino's definitely more popular. So
I mean,
Is
honestly,
it
his
Helena?
ratings
Is
might
it-
have spiked after he did this to himself. The red
it's
gummy
Hel-
might have pushed him.
yeah, didn't think about that. That's true. Is Helena down there just because people? I don't know. Nah, it's Marty and Jace. I think it's Marty and Jace.
Helena was higher up on the votes for who would you want to see win HOH and stuff, though. I feel like
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right, Pooya,
All right.
what do you got?
Marty and Gino. Let's just go with Marty and Gino.
Aman takes this one. It's Marty and Jace.
Okay.
Marty and Jace.
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, so the list here is Kevin on top by a decent margin, followed by Josh and Betty, very, very tight. Then Helena in fourth place, just a bit under Josh and Betty. Then Summer below Helena. Then Gino, Jace, and Marty down at the bottom by a decent margin below Summer. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that all makes sense for the audience.
It does. Are we ready to rate these players? Anything else we need to talk about before we get there?
I guess. Let's do it.
All right. Let's pull it up. This is the portion of the podcast where we rate the players from 1 to 10 based on how well we think they are doing in the game. There are different criteria for these ratings all over the place, but for me, I try to look at some combination of short-term safety, long-term prospects to win the game, and also just how well I think they're doing this specific week. What kind of decisions are they making? Do I agree with those decisions? Are they making dumb decisions, but they're still in a great spot? They're going to be penalized. So that's what we're looking at here. And then we use these numbers to calculate the stock price for each of these players that we are investing in. So let's kick it off and start with Betty. Let's talk about Betty. Betty's interesting here because she won the veto. That's huge. Winning the veto, saving herself, not only winning the veto, but saving herself. I think those are two very great things from Betty. I also like her gumption to go to Jace and think like, I'm gonna like go around Helena here, try to make some kind of deal with Jace under the assumption that Gino leaves, get in there early. That could be big for Betty. Now, I even though I like it, I also don't like it. I think she's maybe a little too early and could end up costing Josh his life in the game because Jace immediately ratted her out and has sort of spawned the entire back and forth about maybe we shouldn't take Gino out of the game. And if she is even indirectly the cause of that, that would not be great. So you have to consider that. But either way, Betty should be okay moving forward. Not a ton of people should be looking at Betty. Now, if it's, I say that's not really true. I think Betty is probably a goner if Josh leaves, because I do think that, Gino and Jace would probably do something like Marty, Betty, Summer in the triple, and she's hanging by a thread there if that happens. So not a great place for her if that doesn't go through. But I Call me optimistic. I do think that Gino is still leaving at the end of the week. And if that is the case, she's in a pretty decent spot. I think she is one of the safer people in the triple as long as Gino leaves. Not lock safe by any means, as I said, but one of the safer people. And then assuming she survives to the final 5, she's now proven that she can win a comp. She's proven she can win physical comps. And she hasn't been great in the mental comps, but she's proven she can win physical comps. And again, I think that winning this veto competition and saving her life is huge for the jury, who will be looking. I think the jury likes Betty right now, at least Moose and Herman. I think they like Betty, but they're looking for her to win something and enter the game more. So this is a perfect opportunity for her to show that she is a player of this game. So I'm a little bit torn between the 6 and potentially even going a 7. I think that the chance that Gino stays is just a little too high for me to be confident enough to give her the 7. I think I have to go with a 6 again this week. I still feel good about Betty. I think that if Betty survives that triple and she's in the final 5, then she might really jump up from there, because I think she really starts to become a contender. But for now, it's going to be a 6, and that's where I fall. Pooya, what do you think?
I'm not mad at your rating here. I talked about what I think. So I just want to give my spiel on what my rubric is for my rating. Because like when I came here week 3, I said that win equity's out the window for me right now. It's too early. We're in week 7 now. We're about to get to final 5 in like 3 days. For me, it's win equity, how they did this week, with just a pinch of survivability in the triple. Now, we've already discussed that anyone could go. So for me, that kind of gets removed as a condition unless you're like absolutely a goner. So with all that being said, this whole week hung on someone needs to win the veto and take themselves off the block. Betty did that. Betty has now gone to win on her resume. Betty has gone to win on her resume before Josh, before Summer. I think that's very good for her. And I do think that Betty is someone who has just improved her chances. I feel like she was in a position where last time I was here, I don't think I even considered Betty a contender. I'm not saying she's out here about to beat anybody in the final 2. No, but I can see a path for her there, where at one point I did not see a path for her. Now, obviously, you've already mentioned Josh leaving could be shambles for Betty. I'm leaning on I don't think they're going to let this opportunity pass by. This isn't Marty being the swing vote. This is Kevin being the swing vote. I'm not concerned too much. I don't think I could have gone a 7. For me, it came down to, is this a 6 or a 5? Last week, you gave her a 6. The rest of the panel went 5. The audience went 4. I think given the rest of the house, let's give Business B some flowers. Let's give her a 6.
There you go. Aman, do you agree with us that Betty is a 6?
Yeah, I think she's on the up and up. I do. I think that her winning when she needed to is always going to play well. That narrative always plays well. We're starting to see that this jury might be shaping up to be the type 2 award comp wins and how that's tied and how the game gets steered after that. And if she is then able to parlay this into another win during the triple eviction and, take up, because regardless, I mean, if either Gino goes now, he's the first one to leave, or he's like one of the second or the third person to leave. If Gino goes, it is better for her. So I think that's probably the most likely to happen. So I feel like if she's going to survive, it's like, now it's like, do I give her the score based on whether or not I think she's going to survive, or do I wait for her to survive and then say, yeah, she should get the score? Screw it. I'm going to give her a 7.
There you go.
Go
A
ahead,
7
Betty.
from
Business
Aman.
B, let's get it.
Petty Betty loves a good show.
Yes. Well, the audience last week was low on Betty. They gave her a 4, and they were full 2 points lower than me there. But this week, they've seen the light. They've seen the light of Business B.
Business B, let's get it.
They gave her a 6 this week. So there you go. A 6 for
Boom.
Betty. Let's move on to Gino, Mr. Red Gummy Bear himself. Pooya, what are your thoughts on Gino?
Okay. So the way I see it, Gino had no business being safe this week, but was, right? For whatever reason, Marty is in love with making Gino love him, and he had that opportunity. When it came down to the gummy bear draw, and this math makes sense, unlike the math in the house, Gino and Jace had a 66% chance of neither of them touching the block. By Gino inserting himself, they had a 50% chance, but he had a 0% chance when it was 66%. He had a 0% chance, Taran. The fact that he even put himself in that conversation, goes on the block, is about to leave over somebody who he could have backdoored last week, and they didn't do so. Give him the one. He's getting the one this week. Give him the one. I was the guy. I was here last time, and I was talking about how I don't think him getting rid of Kyle is bad for his game. The fact that this is how he goes home, give him the one. Just give him the one. What a guy.
One for Gino. Aman, what are your thoughts on Gino?
I just don't understand how somebody could literally have like one of the best positions in the house and it have nothing to do with them. And then all of a sudden they are 100% going home and it has all to do with them. This is the biggest fall, the dumbest fall. I just cannot understand it. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. If I could give him a 0, I would. Because you effectively sent yourself home. And there's nothing else really for me to say anymore. It's a 1. It's 1. Come on.
A 1 for Gino from Aman. Well, I can tell you that the audience has been voting all day long, or at least most of the day, because I did unfortunately release the survey a little late today. The Moose interview threw me off just a little bit, but the audience has been voting most of the day. And the audience thinks that Gino deserves a 2.
Ooh, audience. So
It's the 2 for number 2, meaning that he ain't Is that what that means? That's the only thing that I will accept, okay?
You know, sometimes the audience disappoints you, and this is one of those times. This is one of those times. For me, Gino, this week. I've already been low on Gino in the past. What in the world is he thinking? Why? I mean, this is the definition of this being your fault. You did not need to put your gummy bear in the bucket. Not only that, but just wait until you hear about his campaign to summer tomorrow morning. It was awful. Look, I've already got 3 votes. I'm giving you the opportunity to be my 4th vote. But if you tell anybody, the offer's off the table. Oh boy, this guy, when he actually has to play the game, is not great. So for me, Gino is going to get, whoops. That didn't work. I tried to clip a soundbite.
I don't know what that was.
It was a disappointing. Oh, there it goes.
On delay.
Bum, bum, bum.
A 1 for Gino. A 1 for Gino.
Now listen, if he's not voted out, and then he somehow survives the triple, if anyone put $1 on him, you're getting bank. But don't do it. Don't do it. Unless you're like 1,000th and you're trying to maybe break into the top. Don't risk this. Don't make that mistake.
If he survives the triple eviction, I am driving to Canada, okay? And I'm going to slap every single one of the people left in the house, and then I'm going to rub my hand all through Gino's hair, because whatever luck he has, I have to have it. I have to, okay? Yeah, I'm coming home a new man.
All right, there we go. A 1 for Gino overall. Aman, what are your thoughts on Miss Regular Schmegular herself, Helena?
I mean, I've seen a bunch of you guys in the chat saying that I that I hate Helena. I do not hate Helena. I don't hate Helena. Me saying that I don't necessarily see it for Helena is a far cry from saying that I hate her. I am so indifferent towards Helena, and that is the problem. I think that she finds herself in a lot of interesting positions, right? And I think that so far she has kept herself out of the fray, and that is great. That is to be commended, especially if she gets to the triple and she still doesn't end up on the block. That's great. That's amazing. That says that she is doing something right. But with that being said, if Moose's feelings about Helena's game are any indication of how other people might come out of the house feeling about her game, it's like, all right, sis, you need to kick something in high drive. You do. It's one thing to be understated, and it's another to be understated but know exactly what it is that you're doing. And I feel like all of this sort of like emotional turmoil that she puts herself through indicates to me that she's not going to really be a great narrator for herself. And you cannot win that way. You never will win that way. And so to me, I'm just like, all the potential in the world doesn't mean anything if you cannot get the votes in the end. All right. I will give her she's the least likely person to go home on Thursday. And then she's going to be sitting pretty, hopefully, she'll be sitting pretty with at least Kevin, hopefully, if things go the right way. That's a really great spot. I will give her a 6.
A 6?
I'll give her a 6.
A 6 from Aman. Well.
Should it be a 5? Should it be a 5? Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to give her a 5. I'm going to give her a 5 because right down the middle for me. Really, honestly, it could go either way. She just has to figure it out. She just has to. I just need to see more. I just need to see more from her. That's it.
There you go. A 5 from Aman for. Are you sure you don't hate Helena, Aman?
I don't hate Helena. Why does everybody think that I hate Helena? The last time I was here, I think I gave Helena like a 7 or something. I do not hate Helena. And I'm not about to like let you guys make me. You're not about to gaslight me into believing that I hate Helena and then make me rate her higher. It's not happening. It's not happening.
Well,
save your tweets, save your messages, save your comments. I don't care.
Oh boy. The audience, bit higher on Helena than Aman. The audience gave Helena a 7 this week. And I am even higher than that on Helena. Helena has played an excellent game. She is the only person left that hasn't touched the block. Moose, when talking about Helena, said that he's not sure how intentional her game is. But all he would need to hear is that the connections that she does have, like with Marty and Kevin, run deep. And that they're not just surface level kinds of things, and she's been floating by, which we know is true. So once they hear that, I do think that she will start to get some more credit. Not to mention the fact that again, that she is going to get this. She has this veto win under her belt. I think turning on Gino is a huge move for both her and Kevin. And I think that she also deserves a lot of credit for the, at the very least, assist that she gave Kevin this week in terms of getting Marty to not nominate Kevin. She put in a lot of work, a lot of good work with Marty to achieve this goal of getting Marty to essentially throw out those gummy bears. That said, I can't go as high as a 9 this week for Helena, despite how well she's playing, because first of all, they're wavering on this vote, and I'm not sure where they're going to go. Second, there is some danger that she's in the triple eviction, like with most people. She's not been able to completely keep herself safe. And 3, she hasn't seen, I haven't seen her do the things that they need to do to lock in Summer and Betty. I think that they can, and I think that they will, but I haven't seen it yet. And at some point, it's got to happen. But it hasn't happened yet, so I can't rate it when I haven't seen it. So for me, I'm sticking with the 8 I gave her last week. I think that the 8 is the right place here for Helena. Pooya, what do you think?
Okay, so here are the things, right? The facts we know. Helena has still not gone on the block. The fact that Helena's first time on the block might be at the triple is a very great achievement. Congratulations, Helena. And that still might not happen. There's still a chance that doesn't happen by the triple. So she could be going into Final 5 and not having touched the block. Great. The other part of it is she comes out of this week, I think, in a pretty decent spot. You've already mentioned she is one of the least likely people to go on the triple. However, we've talked about some of those variants. Helena could be someone that just becomes a casualty of a veto use. And it's like, all right, well, I would prefer to save this person more than Helena. That's where she has some potential hard times. Is if someone who you really want to protect is on the block, and you're like, Helena got to go. So she might just be a casualty in that sense. But I think when you look at the game she's played, she's done a very decent job for herself to situate herself to maybe be the best, the easiest person to get to the end game currently. And obviously this will take some sitting down and mulling over numbers and looking at scenarios and stuff. But in a Final 5 scenario, if she makes it past the triple in a Final 5 scenario, I think there are still going to be people she's sitting next to on the block that would be voted out before her because of this perception she might have about her gameplay. Her win equity isn't high up there right now at all, right? So Herman had, very much with Taran was like, who? Game? Huh? Moose, a little bit higher. Not very high. A little bit higher. Depending on who goes into this jury next, they could speak game for her. How effective is it going to be? We don't know. We truly do not know. I think Marty would go to bat for Helena in some capacity. I do think that could happen. If Kevin was to ever leave the house, I think he's going to go to bat for her in some capacity. I don't think I'm ready to go. I think no matter what I say, I think we're getting the same rating because I was between two numbers coming into this. I think I'm going to give her a 7 because I definitely think she's in a better spot than Betty. But I also think that she could rise higher up. It just depends on what these next couple of competitions say and where she ends up post triple.
All right. So a 7 from Pooya, the same as from the audience, which I think will end up at the same as last week, a 7 overall. So let's move on to Jace. Let's talk about Jace. I can tell you that the audience is a little bit lower on Jace than they were last week. Last week, the audience gave Jace a 5. This week, they give her a 4. There you go. Last week, I also gave Jace a 5. Melissa and Maggie both gave her 2s. They were much lower on Jace. For me, I have seen some interesting things from Jace, some back and forth. Things I did like. I do like that she is trying to get in Betty's head about Helena, and it's working right now. It's clearly been effective. She could end up saving Gino with it. That would be great. I like that she's probably she's obviously going to get to the, as long as she survives the triple, she's in an okay place to win. To win out from 5, especially if Marty and Gino and potentially Josh are gone. She's like the winningest person left at that point. It's not terrible. And losing Gino is probably ultimately a good thing for her because going to the end with Gino not be great. Now, I don't think losing Gino is good for her yet. So I don't think that's it's positive overall, but I do like that. She also has definitely been better than Gino throughout this week. Throughout most of the game, she has been strategically better than Gino, even though Gino has been in a better position overall because people love him. So all of that is good for Jace. I also have some stuff, though, that I did not like from Jace this week. In particular, she kind of walked into Kevin and Helena's trap. where she started pushing for Kevin pretty heavily with Marty, and in part scared him off of putting Kevin on the block because he was worried that she might flip on Kevin. She should not have done that. That was a mistake. She also has been, I think, a little too emotional about who goes on the block. When Kevin goes up on the block, she's pissed. She's very visibly pissed to other people in the house who have then ratted her out and further alienated her from Kevin, who has now heard a bunch of times that Jace really thought he should go on the block and that he's being real smug about it. And that's, I don't like that from Jace. I also don't like that she doesn't want to work with Betty. That when she gets in Betty's head and Betty's like, hey, I want to work with you, Jace is going back to Gino and being like, I'm not going to work with Betty. She's trying to manipulate me. I don't trust her for a second. I think she should work with Betty and Summer. I think that's a great spot for her to be. So the fact that she's seeing that option and deciding to not take it, I do not like, even if she does think that Josh is the one going this week. So all of that said, it kind of balances itself out a little bit. And given the fact that she's one of the more likely people to leave in the triple, I am going to just drop her down a notch, just like the audience, and bring her to a 4 overall. Pooya, what do you think?
4 isn't a bad landing spot for JC. I think where JC's game, because JC is about to lose the biggest safety net in Gino, in that obviously this is someone you're ride or dying with, you're someone you're in a showmance with, is all great. But also, if you were both on the block, big chance he goes home because he's the bigger threat. Now he's no longer there. If Marty also leaves, if JC survives the triple, either as the winner of the HOH or the winner of the veto, I think she still has to win the next thing because now she is the winningest, right? But I think JC also is someone who has shown that in crunch time, she's been able to pull a safety win out. Remember in the safety chain night? So I think she could, but also we've seen how she reacts when she's been blindsided. Obviously, remember when she blamed it all on Kyle, immediate reaction was, nope, you're lying to me. You're a horrible liar, Kyle. So I don't know where that's going to go for her, but I will say just the fact that she has 2 chances to save herself over the 1 chance that Marty has to save himself, for me, she gets a 3. Again, this was a 3 or 4 for me. I think I'll go with 3 because I do think that making the stuff known and having people realize how much you wanted Kevin to go up, having Kevin realize that, I think if anything, that's going to, if Kevin reminds himself of stuff like that, it's going to make the decision easier for him to go through with it, go through with this blind side and not waver on what he's planning on doing. So I think a 3.
All right, Aman, what do you think?
I think I tend to agree with you, Taran. I think I'm gonna go ahead and give her a 4. I think she I also agree with what you just said, Pooya, in that it's sucks that she's about to lose Gino, but in a lot of ways that can open her up for a lot of movement in the triple. Now, whether or not she knows what to do now that she's lost Gino is another story, and I'm not entirely confident in that because we see, as Taran has already laid out, that she doesn't necessarily make the best decisions when it comes to who she should be putting her eggs in the basket with. So I fear that once Gino does leave, it might be a bit of a flame out because now she's just sort of like on her own. Even if she's to survive the triple by winning the veto or winning the HOH, what does she do with that HOH? And then if she wins the veto, what does she do with that veto? If she just wins her safety with the veto, how does she progress moving forward? I don't know if she knows what to do, or if she will just, at that point, with little options left, is it sort of the answer sort of become clear? I feel like if the answer has to become clear before you know what to do, then maybe, your skills aren't that great. So I will go ahead and give her a 4. I think that's fine.
All right. Well, let's talk about Josh then. Let's talk about Josh. Josh was a 7 last week. This week, not great. Obviously, very close. He was a gummy bear away from being evicted this week. That said, I don't want to be too hard on Josh in terms of the position he ended up in, because Betty would have gone before him if Betty hadn't won the veto. And then Summer would have gone before him if Summer wasn't saved by Canada. And then, either Jace or Gino likely go before him if either of them go up on the block. And the fact that Marty caught on to Kevin, not really Josh's fault at that point. So even though he nearly went home, I think that it was also like a whole hurricane of circumstance that put him in that spot to begin with. That said, there are some things that I don't love about what Josh has done this week. In particular, that he is continuing to just completely rat out Betty and Summer as much as possible, continues to tell Helena and Kevin that he will, side with them over Betty and Summer, which, I mean, granted, he should be telling them that right now, particularly, but it's been consistent with his actions and words for a while that this is what he's going to continue to do. If he actually turns on Betty, especially for like Helena instead, like, oh boy, oh man, whoa, no, don't do that, Josh. The fact that I think he might actually do it is definitely putting a little bit of a limit here as we get down to it. He's also somebody that could leave in the triple if somebody like Jace wins potentially, but I do think that he is somewhat safe heading into this triple. But he might take a shot at his own number, so I don't love that. If he survives the triple, he's now in the final 5. That's a pretty good spot to be. But we're also now hearing that he's not the lock to win in the end that we may have anticipated, although I do think he still has a good chance. So it's kind of like, it's all kind of rumbling around here. And I was ready to give Josh a 6, except for the fact that I think it's just a little bit too likely that he may actually still go home this week. And that's making me lean maybe more toward a 5. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't know that it won't. And so I've got to go with the 5 for Josh. He might just go this week. If he survives the triple, get ready for this to go skyrocket, right? Like he's in a much better spot. Oh yeah, probably. But for now, he's on the block, and this vote is way too close for my comfort. So, Pooya, what are your thoughts?
It's very difficult. It really is, because I do think that, specifically looking at some of the ways Josh thinks about this game, I don't love. This is something that for some reason has stuck with me, Taran, from when we covered BB20, and you kept saying, I think about Casey is, I don't know, does she have the killer instinct? And that factor for me with Josh, there's a lot. Every week I'm like, it's fine. He's slow playing it. We're getting closer to the end. Get far, King. You got this. I think he can pull some comps in. He's come second in a bunch of places. I love him. I drafted him. It's Dr. Perfect. We remember. We still believe. However, he has put all his eggs in the Kevin basket. And Kevin is a very, very powerful basket. Maybe too powerful, has many options, and has recognized that you are also, I don't know why there are baskets now. You're a decent basket.
The marbles are in the basket, Pooya, I remember.
Exactly. So that I don't love. I do think that straight up, if Josh is in the final 5, Josh survives the triple, I think he is in a very good spot. But still, he will be looked at. I think that is the part that someone like Helena benefits from being at the final 5, is that I don't think Helena might get the shot taken at her necessarily. I could see the shot being taken at Josh in that instance. So like if the final 5 is Betty, Summer, Josh, Helena, Kevin, great spot for Josh, right? He's in the middle of both. Yes. He's good. But it's the triple, and he is someone who could go in the triple, so it's difficult. And I still also don't necessarily think that everything that was said about him in the exit interviews will hold true. I still think he's in a very good chance of winning at the end if he's at the final 2. I think he can explain himself. He'll be fine there. All of this considered, for this week, outside of Gino, everyone had a number. It could go either direction for me. I believe I gave him a 7 last time I was here, so I don't think I can give him a 7 this week. I'm going to give him a 6, but I will give him a 6 by saying this. If you are a Josh believer, this is the week to risk on him. Because if he survives Thursday night, I think you'll eat well next week. Just saying. I think you can eat well next week.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm imagining, I think part of it for me too is that like, I'm imagining a final four or even the final, like imagine the final five for Josh. That is Josh, Betty, Summer, Kevin, Helena. But Josh is willing to turn on Kevin and Helena.
He needs to
All
show
of a
he's
sudden,
willing.
he becomes the front runner, right? Like he is in the best spot there. Imagine a final four of Josh, Betty, Summer, Helena, or something, right? Like it's looking real nice for him at that point, especially if Betty's willing to take him to the final two. It's looking good, but it doesn't seem like that is his intention, even though the option is available. But people change their minds. He may also plan to do that. Who knows?
He might get power and use that time to think what I want to do with the HOH. And that could maybe put some things into perspective. And I think Josh is probably one of the, even though he hasn't won a comp to prove anything that I'm about to say, the runner-up factor, if you will. If Gino and Marty go back to back here and he's at the final five, I'm not mad at the odds of him winning some comps out here. He hasn't won anything yet. I think he could win some comps here. Remember, Paris hadn't won anything, and then Paris balled out. I think Josh could ball out. I really think it's possible. We just haven't seen some stuff to necessarily give him the rating that I could very clearly see. I just have to see it happen, I guess, before I give it.
Yeah. All right, Aman, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not as scared for him in this triple as you two seem to be. I don't know. I'm still sort of like on the train that it's going to be Gino, Marty, and Jace out of here. I just see it. Of course, all it takes is just one person to win something, but I still feel I don't know. Something in my bones just says that Josh is going to be fine. He has been in the lion's den so many times, and for whatever reason, the cosmic forces of this universe keep protecting him. I don't expect that to change. Like, his ass should have been gone on Thursday. And yes, there's still a chance that it could happen on Thursday, but I just don't see it. I don't see how you don't take out. If Gino's gone, you go after Marty. Marty's gone, you go after Jace. That's just how I see it happening. And I agree with what both of you just said. With those two comp threats out, even though that to me is like, now we've seen that Betty can win. Summer came in second. Like, it's not cut and dry that Josh is just the front runner to win, but it certainly increases your chances. So if you can survive the triple and you can still win some comps in the end, then it just comes down to, for me, whether or not you're going to turn on Kevin. And I think that there is a lot of time, like there's time for Summer and Betty to get in his ear and be like, now Joshua, what are you doing? Like, I think that there's time, even if they don't know how in deep he is with them. They don't even have to come at him with that kind of energy. They can literally just say what they would say anyway and say like, look, you have a better chance of coming to the end with us because Kevin did this, that, and the third. It's a no-brainer. And yes, Josh has been very, very frustrating because he doesn't really talk to us. We don't really get to see what he really thinks until Thursdays roll around. And even then, it's always a big hodgepodge of mess. So we still are like left in the dark about what Josh is really thinking about this game. So that is sort of like a blind spot for all of us. But I'm going with the Cosmos. I think he's going to be fine. I'll agree with you, Pooya. I'm going to give him a 6.
There you go. The audience agrees with the two of you on this one. They gave Josh a 6 as well. So there you go. It's going to be a 6 overall for Josh. Let's move on and talk about Kevin. How do we feel about Kevin? Pooya, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Kevin?
Okay. So this week, I wasn't nervous. See, here's the thing. I was not nervous about Kevin leaving, right? If Kevin went on the block, Josh is done. Game over. We move to the next. We move to the triple. But I was worried. There was part of me that found out about this secret task that thought, this is not a great task. I don't love this. I don't love that he has to fake people out. Obviously, people can be playing along, whatever. But seeing Josh cry for Kevin, let's not forget, this was the week Josh cried for Kevin. Helena at the knees. Everyone, oh no, Kevin, no, please don't leave. The fact that he somehow got out of being the renom, I want to see what he said. I can't wait. The fact that he got out of being the Renom, the fact that now Gino is on the block. You have the sound drop ready, Taran. He did mention that he wanted Gino out, but it was impossible this week. He said that.
Ideally, we want Gino out of the house, but that's virtually impossible with Marty.
When the impossible becomes the possible, who benefits? Listen, Kevin's in a great spot. I remember when I was here week 3, I think I gave him I gave him one less than you and Melissa, and I said he needs to stay humbled. He has far exceeded that expectation. Now, I think that he is someone who he probably understands this game the best of anyone there. I think that he's shown himself to be a good talker. I think he could, if he gets to the final 2, I do like his chances of giving an impassioned speech to take him past the line. I think he's in a great spot to survive this triple as well. One of you might find a specific scenario to point. I can't think of any at the moment. I don't think he's in that big of trouble. I think he benefits from Helena riding with him. He benefits from Josh riding with him. He also benefits from if he does keep Josh, the Summer and Betty not putting him up. He benefits from that as well. He literally benefits from everything, and he has won 1 veto this season. That is how you play the game strategically. That is how you play the game socially. Moose might not see it. I do. God, do I give him a 9 or do I give him an 8? Again, the slashes. 9 or 8. 9 or 8. It is the triple. Someone could go. Am I giving anyone else? No one else is going to touch the score, so he's going to get the high score regardless. Let's give him. Hope you enjoyed this video, Kevin. Let's give him a 9. Just give him a 9.
There you go. A 9 from Pooya.
Now
Aman.
you buying off Kevin for future views.
Just enjoy this, Kevin. Enjoy your moment.
What do you think, Aman?
Yeah, I mean, look, Kevin's been running circles around a lot of these people for the past few weeks. You know, he does that thing where, you know, when things don't work out, he goes to the next contingency. If that doesn't work out, he goes to the next contingency. And I feel like just, you know, having Helena in his back pocket, now having Josh in his back pocket, he's just been doing great work. You know, it's just, and I mean, yeah, I mean, Moose sort of being able to recognize that, I think is always great. And especially if of all people to be on your side in jury, of course you would want Moose, because Moose can talk his way into anything and out of anything. So of course I would want Moose on my side. Not that being said, I still think that there's a shot, like I said, that he could still leave on Thursday. I think that there's still a chance for him to go. So I am nervous, but not as much as I am about other people. So he needs for Marty to go. He needs for Marty to go, and he's in a great position. He damn near could probably win. I will give him an 8, only because the triple is looming and we gotta wait.
There you go. An 8 from Aman. The audience is with Aman. They gave Kevin an 8 as well. So it comes to me. And again, there's some ups and downs. Kevin got caught being close to Josh. That was not good.
True.
Not good. Almost went up on the block this week, in part due to his own mistakes. And part of the biggest issue I have here is that his biggest achievement of the week, I didn't get to see. The conversation he had with Marty that took Marty from Kevin's being nominated to I'm passing out gummy bears. We didn't see it. I assume that it had a decent impact considering the fact that Marty changed his mind. And we've seen it in the past as well, that Kevin has had these conversations with Marty. He's been able to change Marty's mind in the past. So again, I assume that he put in good work here. I also, though, did see the conversations with Helena and Marty, and I did see Helena making progress, which is why I'm giving Helena a lot of the credit here as well. But what they pulled off was pretty great. I mean, getting Marty to turn on Gino after he was not willing to turn on Gino, it was virtually impossible. And then they got him to a point where he was passing out gummy bears. You know, people say it was lucky, but that's what Big Brother is. It's inching toward daylight. It's getting yourself to be in a position where you are just getting like a little bit more, just a little bit more likely to win. You're increasing your odds just a little bit more. Kevin goes from 100% on the block to 25% on the block. And that's a huge increase in equity right there. It's a huge move. I think that turning on Gino this week, massive for his game as long as he goes along with it. Gino leaving is huge. The fact that he's getting kudos from Moose on the jury, I said, again, huge, especially if he's talked to Herman. Lots of really great things coming from Kevin. So I'm again tempted to go as high as a 10 because I feel like this is just fantastic stuff from Kevin. But the portion of the week in the beginning where it was looking a little rocky, I wasn't sure on. And then this bit here where he's genuinely, because I know a lot of people are like, hey, they're just playing. He's going to vote out Gino. It's going to happen. Even if that's the case, like he was crying by himself out in the hot tub area.
What today? Yeah.
And then he was like, I'll do this if you want me to. It seems as though he is genuinely considering it. And that's no good. Also, his math is terrible. So
the math is bad.
So for me, I am going to give him the 9 because, again, I think massively impressive stuff. I think that in this case, unlike other weeks where his position has been at least a little bit better, I think that this week he's benefiting from the excellent move he made to get those gummy bears in place when really, like with this looming triple, he maybe should be a little bit lower, but I'm going to give him the 9. And I do think that he is one of the safer people heading into the triple eviction, as long as he puts in the work with Summer and Betty, who are currently promising Jace they will vote to save her in the triple, which would be devastating for Kevin's chances to survive the triple. So he needs to get in there and do that work because he is voting to keep Josh and he should be getting lots of benefit from it. And here's the other thing about the wavering that's happening right now. Instead of spending Tuesday putting the work in with Summer and Betty, he's spending Tuesday talking with Jace and Marty and Gino and Helena and Josh all about the decision, instead of doing the work that comes from having made the decision to get himself into the position that he needs to be. And regardless of where he lands, he's wasting this time on this Tuesday. It's valuable time. And while he's wasting it, things are going in the other direction. And that's almost enough to bring me down to the 8. But the gummy bears was too impressive. So I'm giving him the 9. There you go.
Yeah, I want to preface that my rankings are assuming that Gino leaves. If Josh leaves, none of what I said is canon. Okay,
Chaos reigns.
Delete my stock ratings. Like, it's all shambles.
We all look like fools if this vote flips. These ratings are not canon.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Marty. Aman, how do you feel about Marty?
Marty's a 2.
That's 2 for Marty.
Maybe a 3. I just feel like a lot of what I've said about Gino also applies to him. I do think that the one thing that Marty has going for him is the fact that he is such a bombastic energy in that house, and that sort of has kept him afloat. And on top of that, he can protect himself from all of the errors that he makes because he wins competitions. So maybe I shouldn't be as low on him in terms of this triple because he's proven time and time again that he can win out. So maybe there's a chance that he wins this veto. But if he does not, he is gone. And I just don't know. I just don't see a path for him, because I feel like if you survive the triple, they come for you again. If you survive the final 5, they come for you again. If you survive, that's a lot of defense that you have to do. And you were able to sort of like skate by because you had people like Gino trade off HOHs with you. But if Gino was gone, it's just not great. And on top of that, like the fact that you got goaded into, I'm sort of the opinion that this gummy bears is more to do with him than it is to do with Kevin and Helena. the fact that you still did this. Like, what are you doing? It's a 2. It's a 2. I thought I may have given him a 3, but no, it's a 2 because I think he's gone on Thursday.
Yeah, the audience agrees. They gave Marty a 2 as well, and I am also going to give Marty a 2. Now, I think both Herman and Moose have been like, yeah, I'll vote for Marty if he's there, which is a little terrifying. But there are still a lot of people in the game that would be against voting for Marty in the end. I don't think he's drawing dead, which is why I'm not going to give him a 1. But I think he is the most likely person to leave in the triple eviction. Even if he survives the triple eviction, I think he then needs to basically win out from there, at which point I do think he has a chance to win the game. But that's a pretty bad place to be. And he's also played atrociously this week. I could have given him credit, even if like it's a broken clock is right twice a day kind of thing, where he managed to sniff out Kevin and Josh and knew that putting Kevin on the block was the right move, except he didn't do it.
Exactly.
You can have the right read all you want. If you don't act on it, it doesn't matter. And instead, you came up with this gummy bear thing, which made everybody pissed at you.
It doesn't make any sense. That's such a good point, Taran, because like you had that thing where you're like, oh, Kev, I thought it was gonna be a whole aha moment. I was like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be some great adversity for Kevin. Let me see how, and it went nowhere. Why? Like, come on.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a 2 for Marty from me. Pooya, what do you think?
He's 2-1 in the 2s. I mean, ultimately, the difference between him and Gino is that he gets to compete in the veto at the triple, and Gino cannot. I guess Gino may have had some better social going. I don't know. All I do know is he has to win out to get to final 2 at this point. If he gets there, it's interesting because he would have to get there through winning some competitions, and so far the jury is loving that. But can he get there? It's quite a few comps he'd have to get there. It's not impossible, but the fact that it's all riding on comps isn't a good spot to begin with anyway. And for us to even begin having that discussion, it's not a 50% chance, or maybe he has to win the veto on Thursday to even have that debate. He's hanging on 1 comp. If he gets it, there's a discussion. If he doesn't get it, he's in the jury house right next to Gino. Also, you can't even simp well, man. Like, this is the thing. I don't love how much he's trying to, buddy up with Gino all season, but every time he's had a chance to do it, he has fumbled it. Even here, when Gino's like, no, I'll do the gummy, you should be like, no, Gino, that was a test. See, I trust you. I don't want to put you up at all. This is more team building.
I was waiting for that. That all day I was waiting for that yesterday. The fact that it never came, I was like, this fool is a fool. Like, I'm just like, what is going on? I can't.
That's it. Easy 2.
All right, 2s for Marty. Finally, let's talk about Summer. The audience gave Summer a 5 this week, up from the 4 last week, and I have to say I'm inclined to agree. Obviously, Gino leaving is pretty good for Summer from my perspective, at least. Aman seems to perhaps think differently, but from my perspective, I think it's a good thing that Gino leaves for Summer's game. So assuming that happens, that's a good thing. And then the difference between Summer and Betty right now is that Betty has a little bit more pull from the jury, I think, with 1 comp win under her belt, and sort of like the again the perspective that Moose had on Summer, especially if he's talked to Herman, not great. And so Summer needs to win some comps, needs to happen. Betty has already won a comp now, so I'm feeling a little bit better about Betty in that sense. I also think that Summer is a little bit more vulnerable than Betty, especially heading into this triple eviction. I think that Josh, Kevin, Helena, they've all talked about potentially putting Summer up on the block. I think that Summer is an easy out there, not protected by Josh, not protected by anybody, that could just be a casualty of this triple eviction, or even following the triple eviction. Who's going to take Summer to the final 2? Not a single person. Betty might if Josh is already gone. Other than that, nope, I don't think anybody. So that's not great. But she's I think in a spot right now where if she does survive that triple eviction, she still has some life in the game. She can still win some competitions. She has thrown a lot of them, so she could be capable of winning more than we might think. For me, right now, especially heading into a triple where anything can happen, I'm going to give her the 5. It could really go. It could go up or down. I'm kind of expecting it to go down, but we'll see. For now, it's a 5. Pooya, what do you think?
To me, it's Summer is kind of the smack dab middle, right? 5 is a middle rating. I think Summer is there for me because even though we're about to finish the game in what, about 2 weeks, little more, 2 weeks, I don't think she's done, but she needs a comp win at this point. She really does need a comp win. The way Moose, again, not canon, but the fact that Moose goes as far as to say, well, everyone has social, so what else you got? I think she needs a little bit more. She clearly gets the Canada bump, right? The safety. I think that's a good thing. If anything, you know,
Yes.
What impression does it give you? Canada does love Summer, so maybe should we be loving Summer? Should we be in on Summer?
And Moose doesn't know about that, right?
No,
so
not yet.
that is also a big thing for her game, I think.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where if you're told from the outside, oh, people are backing this person, you have to start looking at, okay, so what am I missing if I'm not seeing it? So if someone like Moose, like, I don't think so, it's like, oh, wait, let me re-examine. So I think that's something that you could even look into. But that's why for Summer, I'm also going a 5 because I feel like it's still unwritten. I think a lot of the look at her weekly progression, it has been on a decline. She started very strong early in the season and has gone down. But I think at this point, it's the make or break point. By next week, either she's done or she could have an upswing. Not like a very big upswing, but some movement up. I think 5 is a good spot to leave her for now. Honestly, for Summer, I had it between a 5 and maybe a 4, but I thought it was better than last week. So 5 it is.
Yes. All right. Aman, close us out.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think I think she has been on this like slow decline for quite some time. I think and about the Gino thing, I feel like there is I still feel like there is an avenue there for her to make it farther in this game with Gino still there, only because Gino will remain a target ahead of her. And Josh is just so willing to just toss her. And she's just so, she doesn't see that. I just feel like Summer, yeah, I mean, it's another one of those things where, yes, she has been throwing the comps, so we don't necessarily know how prepared she is. We did see the fact that she did get second, right, this week. So maybe she's starting to kick things into high gear, but it sort of like lands at that thing that similarly to Helena for me, where it's like you're like really, it could go either way for you. I just don't. Like you said, Taran, how do you get to the end if you can't win all of the comps? And then if you do win some of the comps, and in the event that you can't win the last one, who's going to take you there? Josh has to go. Jace has to be gone. It really just has to be you and Betty. And I don't know if now that, I mean, you sort of like soured that relationship a few weeks ago. So that is, even that is still a little tenuous. So I'm just like, wait, yeah, that's what it really comes just down to, her having to win. And that's it. And that's never a good spot to be in. So I maybe want to give her a 4, maybe, but I still think that she's pretty safe in this triple. I still think that. So yeah, I'm going to give her a 5 as well.
Taran, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Big plane passing by. To mute for a sec. Fives for Summer all around. And that is the stock watch for the week. I can tell you that taking a glance over at the updates happening right now, Kevin and Helena are finally reconvening and discussing the vote. And Kevin is hitting hard. They should vote Gino out.
All right. Keep the 9. That's fine. Okay, cool. All right.
It just would not make any sense not to. Like, get his ass out of there. Come on now.
Yes. So this is what we assumed, but all of my points still stand. The fact that they were even considering it is ridiculous. I think they've wasted time, and they've really they made us consider lots of things here on the podcast just to hit us at the end with like, nah, we're gonna vote out Gino. So all right. That's the stock watch for the week. Let's take a look at the leaderboard. Let's see what's happening over on the old leaderboard. Here's what we had at the end of last week with the Martas here in first place. Let's see what this week's ratings did to the leaderboard. The Martas still in first place, as long as it actually updated. Let's make sure it did actually update.
It did update.
It did. It changed. The Martas stayed in first place with Kevin being in on Kevin. Kelly here in second place was in on Helena, stays in second place. And then John, I believe, was also in third place and stays. Oh, no. John went from fourth to third. Leapfrogging Jonathan, perhaps? Yeah. Jonathan went from third to fourth. The Johns fighting it out for third place. There you go. Okay. Let's see. Where have I fallen here? All right. 366th, top 25%. That doesn't seem terrible.
Nice.
I went up 104 places. I was in on Helena this week. Thank you, Aman. I also had some in Betty, who I think also made a decent amount of money there. What's Pooya got going on here? Pooya, 125, top 10%, was also in on Helena and Betty this week.
That's
Same
right.
move.
That's right.
That.
Same move. Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like, I have any money left over, it's going to Betty, and it worked out. So I'm happy with that.
There it is. And let's just take a look at Melissa. How is Melissa faring? 130. Oh, hold on. 137, 125. A tight race between Pooya and Melissa. Melissa with the Helena and Kevin stocks still doing very well, despite not having changed, I think, most of the season.
No way. Really?
Yes. Literally first week went in on Helena and Kevin. Has not done a single thing since then other than pick up some Josh.
Hey. Sometimes you just gotta put it in
for her.
You put that money in there and leave it.
Yeah. I think you know what I think that works too for the stock watch, that like those are the two players performing the best. They weren't always performing the best though. So she's doing very well, but she's not quite as optimized as some of the players that were really down in the weeds week to week. But still going in on two of the top two players and holding has definitely done well for Melissa.
I think I'm just going to split my stocks between Kevin and Helena now, because then no matter what happens, I'll beat Melissa this season. So I'll do that. That's the strat now.
That's the strat. All right. So
hey, let's get it.
Man, it will be an interesting triple eviction as do you want to risk your stocks in the triple eviction? Two people, in addition to likely Gino, will be evicted, and it could be anybody. What a wild ride that could be. It's perhaps a good opportunity to win some money when nobody else is, but it could also destroy your entire portfolio. So I will be streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong on Thursday to talk through your options and see if maybe you want to take that risk. Just like Kevin and Helena are taking a risk here. But for now, that's the roundtable. Any final thoughts, Pooya?
All I will say with regards to your stock purchases, folks, I've never ranked this highly going into this portion of the season, I don't think. So I'm toying with a hold. I've never held though. But this is where you got to risk it. I know a lot of people in the top 300 might be holding. You want to jump up? This is the time to do it. Take the risk. Why not?
Look at Pooya trying to encourage people to jump off that cliff.
I've never held. I've never held. But if you risk, then maybe I don't. So that not all like we don't. You benefit. I'll stay behind. You beat me. It's fine.
You go ahead. You just. I'm sure there's water under that cliff. I'm sure you will land and it will be okay. You jump first. I'll wait here. I'll take the real risk of not having that fun. And then we will see what happens.
Here, I'll offer you a gummy as well. Very nice gummy for you.
How kind. How kind. Just kick your feet right up here in the stock watch. All right. Aman, any final thoughts here on the week?
This stock watch rating was brought to you by AmonDoesNotHateHelena.com. I'll be selling
Listen, we do not hate any of the nobody hates a player. Everybody has their own opinions on the ratings, their own criteria for the ratings. And if you disagree with them, that does not mean that the other person is terrible and needs to be defamed or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I think that this season has definitely been quite interesting to watch, especially as we get down to the end game. And yeah, I think in terms of the draft, if what I think happens, what I think is going to happen happens, this will be interesting because that means that all 5 of us will have one person left.
Yeah.
Who have you got?
I have Josh and Marty right now.
Josh and Marty. Okay. And
Rob has Kevin. Melissa has Helena.
Melissa says, "Oh, look at that."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever really happened
This
before.
is
So that's
business B. Let's get it.
I love it.
Let's get it, business B.
I kind of want that to happen. I want sort of Jason and Marty to go even more now, just for the drama of the draft. But yeah, always a great time to talk some Big Brother. And I'll be back tomorrow.
Look at that. Thank you both so much for joining me here, filling in for Melissa. Thank you to the audience for tuning in here tonight and for voting in the survey. I will, of course, be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happened, the ups and downs of the roller coaster of this day here on the Big Brother Canada 10 live feeds. Tomorrow night, we will have some Wednesday night shenanigans. We'll have the Big Brother Canada episode at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be live on Twitch watching along with all of you as we see the gummy bears, the fake self-eviction, all kinds of nonsense going on tomorrow night's episode. So make sure you tune in for that. And then Survivor after that, I will be watching as well. And then we'll be recording about both after the fact. So check out all of those. And then Thursday, of course, I'll be live in the morning to update you on the feeds. I'll be live on Twitch to talk about the stock watch. I'll be live watching the episode, the triple eviction episode, with all of you reacting in the moment. And then after the episode, live again to recap it all. So stay tuned for all the Big Brother coverage. Check out the Taran show with I spoke with Gabby very recently. I've got an interview coming up with Lisa from Survivor New Zealand. Very good conversation with her. And then we're putting it on Yatus again for a little while until I stop being bombarded by Big Brother things. So check out the Taran show while it's still running. Find me over on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. And Pooya, what have you got going on?
Season 9 of 90 Day Fiancé just started up. I got to talk about the premiere episode with Liana. She was my guest this week. It was a good time. This is going to be a messy season, which is exactly what you want on the Hot Mess Express. That is 90 Day. Masked Singer as well, co-hosting that with Liana. It's been a good time so far. We're halfway there. Another half to go. That's also on the RHAP Network. And also, you can find me on Twitter at Pooyism. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Pooya. I do stream that 3-4 times a week. Come through. Say hi.
There you go. Aman, what have you got going on?
You can follow me everywhere at Aman Adwin. I will be covering the season finale. We have made it to the season finale of Drag Race season 14. We've got a final five for the first time in Drag Race history. So should be an interesting Friday night. Of course, that episode will probably be in your feeds by Sunday night or Monday morning. But other than that, that's it for me.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here this week. And it's unanimous.
And a landslide unanimous vote.
People love the Stock Watch.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining. We'll see you next time.